Hey, welcome back to the channel. All right, it's time for the 28th edition. I can't believe we've been doing this long. It has evolved a lot. This is January 2023. Now, for those of you who've been following the channel for a month, you know that in December, I did a full amount of rankings videos where we did them by class and the best of 2022, and then the best overall in game. And the exercise we did there was we asked my Discord server to rank them all. And then I used that to kind of give my thoughts. Really fun, really interesting, and honestly, I learned a ton from it. And I've used that to kind of not reformat, but really look at and analyze how can we improve the monthly tier list. And I'm really excited about where we've got it now. One of the first things you'll notice here is at the very top says the overall best with an eye towards questing and rank ups. I had always said well, lately we had said, most of 2022 had said it's about questing and that's it. No battlegrounds, no war. And not that battlegrounds or war are now taking over, but really keep an eye towards just best. And the reason being is I learned from my server how they're playing the game, the champions they're using. And also it made me think, we just never know what Kabam's going to throw at us with new mode. What are those nodes going to look like? What's war going to look like? What are battlegrounds going to look like? Incursions, Everest constant, right? We know that EOP is something's coming in January. It's going to be very, very exciting. And so here it is. This spreadsheet will be linked in the description. Many of them, as you can see, some are blue, some are not. The blue ones have hyperlinks to playlists on my channel. You're always welcome to check that out. And even for some of them, I'm seeing, I do have playlists on my channel that have videos of mine, MCoC Illuminati, and other creators who I really respect and enjoy. But some of them aren't showing up there. So even if you don't see it, go ahead and go to my channel. You'll find something, I am sure. Now, we're going to go ahead and break this down. I'm going to give the usual disclaimers, and I'm also going to go over the legend and everything you see in the column on the right-hand side. I do think it's important if you're going to try to really understand this and learn from this, to know what's going on there. But I know some of you are like, dude, I've seen this before. Some of the emojis are new. So if you want to, I will put a timestamp in the description. You can jump directly to the start of the rankings. There is a lot to go on because we have updated it quite a bit. I'm very happy with it. But for those of you who do not want to do that, you want to hear it all? Here we go. The first thing I want to point out is this is meant to be a tier list, right? In that it's not a Bible. This doesn't mean that Doom is always going to be the best mystic in all scenarios, nor if you don't like him, you shouldn't rank him up. There are a ton of champions, and that's one of the things that is very clear from the sheet, that you can use to clear content and use them to clear it very, very well and be very competitive in war, incursions, battlegrounds, wherever it is that you want to be. So make sure you keep that in mind. Also, the game is always changing, always fluid. You know, on my channel, we talk about the evolving relationship. Often you hear me talking about between cosmic and mystics, between science and skill. So this sheet is always going to be fluid. I've decided I'm going to update it more to what I really do think is going on. And that's a great lead into the legend here on the right-hand side. I want you to take a look at it. We've now got an emoji for ranking dependent on awakened abilities. I'm emoji for ranking dependent on synergies. I do my best to cover as many as we can. But as the game continues to grow, sometimes there's going to be ones we can't get. If you go all the way down to the bottom of this spreadsheet, you'll see there's actually a second page that shows you what synergies those rankings are dependent on. Big boost from high or max sig, crazy skill required, Tigra, Hela, that sort of thing. Recoil friendly, right? That one's always tough. It's a bit nebulous, but I think it's giving you a good idea of, I like to run recoil. I've just pulled this champion. Does Vega think that they can run recoil? That's what we're trying to shoot for there. The little microphone, we're going to talk about them in this video. The little heart in an envelope, they've been buffed directly or by a newer champion synergy. Think of Iron Man Infinity War getting a buff this upcoming month in January. Venom buffed what seems like the whole entire game via synergies, at least Agent Venom. The little video game monster means go ask Sweeta. There's just some champions he does things with. I really don't understand or know what he's doing. He is so insanely good. This could be go ask Cruddy Mike, go ask B McG, go ask Legacy, so on and so forth. You get the idea. Now we've got what to me look like two little mountains. That means their ranking is really about Everest content, or they're better in Everest content, or they're important to Everest content. We don't know, right? Many of us have cleared Abyss. Many of us haven't. There could always be another something of Legends coming our way. Champions like this likely are going to see a buff, and that's why they're ranked where they are. You've got this broken heart, meaning this champion is often broken in various places. You'll see that come into the rankings. I've added the little dice here now, meaning it's my prediction. I like predicting things. Those of you who've paid attention to my channel for a while know, and we're like, hey, Hulkling's going to be good. Wiccan's going to be great in this place. Scorpion's going to be awesome. I like doing that. I'm going to get some stuff wrong, though. I'm sure. I know I did this last year, too. I want to let you know that's what the little dice means. Let's give it some time. Be careful. But here's where I really think this is going to end up. And then also the crosswords. I do have a completely separate BG's tier list that I do in between all seasons as we continue to evaluate how that's going, where that's going, so you can rank up and build decks. And that way, when the new meta hits, you're more ready to go because you've already got the best champions ranked up. And then last but not least, I want to give full credit to MCoC Illuminati because, of course, this is my experience, but this game is so big and so complex. Always make sure I run it by them. They give me their thoughts, their feedback. We don't always agree, but we end up in a really good place based on it. And you can see the links to the various things. BMcG actually does his own tier list. It's really awesome. If you want someone else's direct perspective, go ahead and check that out. DLL with Essential War Attackers, Nerd with the BG rank ups for top 10 play because he really does play in that tier. Slaymon has done some great Horseman rankings for me. And then, of course, credit to Tom, Jarvis, Campo, MC, MP, Blaze, Knothorn, Bryce, and Iron Patriot. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for all the work you do to help us all get better at this game. All right, that was a lot. Let's get into it. The tier above all. This is just the best of the best. They're going to be amazing, dominant, fantastic in so many different scenarios, so many different modes for you. That's how they end up here. We're going to go through the Mystic Champions, and then we'll go on down, right? I forgot that everyone does like it better when we do it that way, and it is nice. It is nice. So here we go. Dr. Doom. He's you know what he's broken in? You know what content he's broken in? All of them. It just is. He's the best Mystic in the game. I know there's a lot of love for Rintra. I love Rintra too. But then we all remember, oh yeah, that's right. You know, Rintra's almost as good as Doom in all these places, except Rintra doesn't have power control and Doom does. And Doom's power control is amazing. Maybe one of the best in the game. So there's that. Moving on through, we get to Magic, who is only available as a 5-star. If she was out as a 6-star, I think that's exactly where she'd be. But I do want to call out for folks who are newer in this game, making their way up. Remember, 7-stars are coming. I know there's going to be Ascension, but I don't know. I love Magic, just have not played her in quite a while. And mainly it's because of the growth and of the variety of the champions, right? Champion variety levels and things like that. Now we're getting into top shelf. These are champions. They're just not the best, but they are phenomenal. They're phenomenal. They're amazing. Some of my favorite, most dominant champions to play. The first ones we're going to talk about here is Mojo. Now, if you saw a lot of my content in December, it really forced me to rank through and sit, and I thought about it. Mojo is just so unique right now in the in the Mystic class. In fact, I want to put this here. This is going to be our first. I'm realizing I intended to. Let's put this here right next to Mojo, because this for me, I want to show there's a little bit of risk involved here. He's the only Mystic champion right now, okay, that reduces the duration of temporary buffs. We've got our neutralizers, we've got our nullifiers, and there's starting to be things in the game that are decreasing the times you can use that. There's defenders, there's nodes, that sort of thing. We've got champions like America Chavez and Wong that are getting stronger, Spider-Man Supreme, who we'll talk about. But Mojo just reduces the buffs, and he's very, very powerful. I don't think he's necessarily designed to be played at low health, but his low block proficiency concerns me less because he gets a really nice heal. It does mean he's a little bit dangerous. I like him, though. The reason I've got the dice is all that I think it would take is some maybe stronger champions, maybe with like some immunities, maybe with some healing, something like that have great flow and are well made too, of course, that could move him down the list. It wouldn't mean that he's no longer good. It just might mean, if you think of it like a Venn diagram, more champions are taking up his space. I've already predicted for a while now that I thought that would be coming to MCoC in the Mystic class. If one or two comes, it doesn't mean Mojo will move down. It just means he's gonna have a larger stake on the block, let's say. Let's call it that. I do really like him though. Wiccan, I feel good about this rank. I think that's his upper echelon though. I don't think we're ever going to see him move higher in that tier or anything like that. He is very fragile. He's excellent where he's at, though. Is a rank 3. I was using him to solo EOP. He brought him into a lot of war, things like that. I've actually recently taken mine to rank 4. He's part of one of my favorite trinities in the game. I'll get a video at that on someday. I love him. He's great. His neutralize is very powerful. A lot of damage potential. So the nice heal off the SP1. I think he's fantastic. I really like his awakened ability. Hey, so going through all that, I realized I forgot Absorbing Man. That's about where I think he's going to be. I'm not at liberty to talk too much about his kit. I have seen it, but I know his notes aren't out, and I don't think the deep dive is going to be live. So I don't want to even risk anything with my non-disclosure agreement on the CCP, but I think he's going to be really good. There's actually a small part of me that thinks he could move up even higher, but I haven't gotten the chance to fully play him yet. Just read his abilities. It is helped that I'm good friends, great friends even, with the designer DLL. But reading through the abilities on it, I was like, this makes complete sense. This is how this man thinks, the way he analyzes this game. And I think the flow on Absorbing Man is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be really hard for me to not open any calves for it, but I'm not going to. One, I'm excited because it's my friend, but two, I think he's going to be that good and helpful in places like War and Battlegrounds. I could not be more excited about it for him, and that's where I think he's going to end up. Can't wait to get my hands on him. Let me know if after you're seeing this, after you've seen the deep dive and the notes, let me know if you think this is about where you think he'll end up. Okay, speeding up a little bit here. We're in the super premium. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, like, no, I've used this champion in super premium to clear a ton of content. You're wrong. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. It doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean you're wrong. You're right. This tier is all about they are great. And many of us could use these champions to clear a ton of content in this game, and likely have. That's how big complex this game is, and that's how many really awesome champions are in here. There's gonna be modes or times or fights or nodes or defenders where this champion appeared maybe even overpowered. It's just is not as many of them as the ones in the tiers above, or maybe this champion doesn't have the breadth or isn't as quick or saving quite as many items as the champions in the tier above. But I want to be very clear, if they're in super premium, they are fantastic, fantastic champions that are well worth your rank up resources. The first one in here is Scarlet Witch. So many of you for about 2 months now have said, hey dude, you're wrong on Scarlet Witch. And I will say, a little bit of that's left from me being such a long time player. She was so dominant, got that nerf in 12.0, but with the synergy with Quicksilver, she's really back. It's still random. I do think the other champions above her are better, more reliable, but she's going to do some amazing things. I cannot deny that. Thank you for letting me know. I've learned a lot from you, the commenters. Now, America Chavez, she's got the rolling dice here because her buff's going to go live in February. I've put in some asks and requests to kind of make her buff like a buff plus, maybe update her for where the game is. I think her buff was very solid for where the game was when she came out. But there are some things that could help her out. I think increase her longevity and make her more widely used. I've asked for them. Even if they came in, I think that would just move her up this tier. But I put out the video. I think you might have a Battlegrounds monster. I think she's going to be very quick in it. And I think champions with a lot of buffs, she's potentially going to be hitting very, very hard and quickly. She's also got that really nice version of power control. It's not universal, but she's handling that ability power gain. Feel pretty good about her. I also am a fan of her, right? That's an America Chavez doll back there, action figure on my desk there, on my bookshelf. So I will probably be taking her to rank 4 almost the day that goes live, or soon there around that time. I like her. I think she's going to have some real uses in Battlegrounds, and potentially I could see in War and Questing, depending on what the node or the defender is asking. Going into premium, I know some of you are going to be like, no, Wong's fantastic. I just took Sasquatch to rank 4. It depends on when the videos come out. When you see these, you might not know that already. You might know that. I might have spoiled it, so I'm sorry. These champions are great. I've actually had a lot of fun with Spider-Man Supreme, who's who we're going to talk about. But there's some flaws, or there's just less area of the game where they're going to really be helpful. Or maybe the flow isn't that good on them. Attend one of my streams. Ask me what I mean by that. They're very good champions. They're worthy of ranking. But if you came to me and asked me, which is one of the most common questions, should I take this champion to rank 4 or 5 or whatever as we go through the game? You can see my answer right there under the premium is going to be, yeah, but let's check why first, okay? Let's make sure you really know what you're doing. You really like them. You're invested. You're going to use them in this place. Maybe you don't have 2 or 3 more superior options, something of that nature. Spider-Man Supreme, he's one of these champions, and I think this is a tough design space, and I think that's what we're seeing here is they don't nullify, they don't neutralize, they're supposed to get stronger. The problem is, especially if it's a power gain scenario, although he handles that relatively well, the defender still has those buffs. And he's very powerful with them, and he minimizes those buffs and he steals the power gain, right? The issue is, and I had this happen with in my Battlegrounds matchup with Karate Mike, is I could not press my special button fast enough. I kept getting pushed to the SP3. It's a beautiful looking special 3. I just didn't want that to happen. There was nothing I could do about it. I know that's how he's designed. You want to use him in these buff heavy matchups, but in the buff heavy matchups, you're getting all this Mystic Dispersion. They tried to fix that in his kit, but it's still happening. I don't know. I've got my reserves on him, or reservations on him. I know B McG loves him though. Check that B McG's tier list, as I said, or at least his channel for another perspective on Spider-Man Supreme. And that really ties up the Mystic class. Now that we don't have to describe each category, let's go ahead and move on to the mutants. You can see there, we've got that busted, that OP, that broken next to Kitty Pryde, Archangel, and Magneto Red. I do think Kitty synergized up, maybe the best champion in the whole darn game. First champion we're going to talk about here in the top shelf is Namor, right, from the MCU. He's really grown on me. Not that long ago in this channel on my Discord server, I actually called him Stupid Namor. I really did not like him. And then finally my buddy Work, and I think it was Jacob, really convinced me. They're like, look, just do it. Take him to SIG 200, take him to rank 3. And they were right. Every once in a while, Kabam just comes out with a fight. It often involves Terrax, but that's why he's going to now be here. Is it used to often involve Terrax, and it felt niche. I almost felt like cheese. But we're seeing these nodes more and more now. I don't think it's a coincidence that we're now seeing it in Battlegrounds, right, with this power burn. That he can just reflect it back. Now, the reason why I have him up here, because you're going to see other champions that are kind of like one-trick ponies, and you'll see them, they're usually ranked in Premium, or maybe even Call. Is he still powerful elsewhere? Again, I always promise these videos and then I just get so busy. I want to put out a video. It's only got like 2 fights, but showing in war, where he's still so fantastic. And all Kabam had to do was put one little node in there. He's reflecting that damage back, but then he's got this great damage to just totally obliterate the fight. He's really good. He's really good. And that a synergy with the Tuma, I think is going to help him a lot. I know a lot of us don't have a Tuma, but I do think that would be helpful, and a Tuma is good as well. I think Namor, he's almost timeless. He's going to have his ebb and his flow, though. So there might be times where he moves down a little bit, but right now he's the only champion in the game that can do what he does, and the rest of his kit is still very good. So it just accentuates what he does instead of just being all that he does. White Magneto is moved down to Super Premium, and I know a lot of you are probably going to be like, what the heck, dude? You're one of his biggest fans. You were telling us for years, or a very long time anyway, rank him up. He's not the same as Big Red Brother, but he's still good. And I do believe he is. But what's happened is I've started taking quite a few fights with White Magneto, and I think the hype has actually gone too far on him. He was underrated for a very long time, and then some people were like, no, wait, he's not just for pre-fights. But then I think you started pushing him too far. And it can get you into trouble. It's almost like the syndrome with Kitty Pryde, right? Where she's so good, so dominant that we play her too aggressively and then we end up dying. I feel like that's what's happened with White Magneto. And the fact of the matter is this. You know, and I've said a lot, is like, hey, have him ranked up. He can take a fight or 2 for you. And you can use that pre-fight. If you're just bringing him from the pre-fight, you don't need him ranked up. So that's why I have him there. He's good. He's great. Remember, we said in this tier, it's a champion who's going to do a lot for you. They just can't do as much, or they're not as powerful as the others. Similar thing with Sunspot. Tremendous damage, perfect block. He's great. But then that's about it. He does have a ton of debuffs. They're all incinerates. And that's been asked of us, but it's not asked all the time. And it's not like there aren't other champions who do that as well. I really like him. He's great. Havoc's the one who I think could have an argument to move up, but I feel comfortable with him where he's at. Domino, when she's good, she is amazing, but there's just so much RNG. And then I want to point out that Strife does have, that's our first, or I guess Morningstar had our first kind of Everest content emoji. Strife's got it there too. And then Toad. Toad for me is almost a perfect example of this tier. He's like the epitome of it, right? He is very, very good. And he is unique in the mutant class as far as having the poisons. He can handle Nick Fury's for you. Need a little luck RNG with the active poisons turning into the passives. But I often am wanting more if I was going to put him up higher. His damage capabilities aren't as good. What the game asks for us isn't as frequent as that. And even when it is, it's not like he's dominating that, but he's fantastic. He's awesome. You want to take him to rank 4, rank 5, whatever the highest variety is. When you see this, I think he's well worthy. Moving on to the mutant class, it looks like that's about it. It is odd for me. Once I really reevaluated it, I did feel like a lot of these mutants, just as the game has evolved, have moved more into that super premium tier. I'm very curious to see. I'm going to keep a watchful eye out for the course of 2023. If we see some new mutants come up who make that top shelf or that tier above all, they already have enough tier above all, but that top shelf, I really want to keep an eye on that. And like I said, Havoc might be someone who goes up there. I've recently maybe have a reason to start playing one a little bit more than I did before. Let's move into the science tier or science class. Ooh. Moving into science, it was really tempting to put that little broken heart, broken next to Scorpion, but I don't think he is. He just, I like my Scorpion. But Quicksilver, I think Quicksilver is one that really surprises people. If you're really interested in my long thoughts on Quicksilver, check out my top 10 science champions, right? And my top champions of 2022. I think he is absolutely amazing. And I think the big difference is you either enjoy playing him or you don't. I happen to enjoy playing him. And again, another video I'm promising that hopefully I get out. He does even more utility than I realized. He's great. He's phenomenal. I love him. You get up the slow and you can just do so many things with him on top of the immense damage. And in Everest content, if something comes out, I think we may even be adding the Everest content there for him too. Moving on to the top shelf. The ones I want to talk about are Void. Void has his very vocal fans, and they're right. He is good. And some they're like, he's still good. For me, what's happened is the science class. Look how many champions are in the top shelf. That I think is the most of any class by a good amount. If you think of it like a Venn diagram, there's just so many of them that kind of do what he does and some other things. So it doesn't mean that Void's not good. It just means that he's not the only kid on the block anymore. But he is fantastic. We've got Titania up there, and this was I got the encouragement from my boy Na, who's in that MCoC Illuminati. Checks us out, and he was the one who actually came. He's like, "You like predicting things? Come up with an emoji for it." And he said, "I think Titania deserves to be there." And you know, he's probably right. And DLL agreed with him. She's got that stagger off her heavy, so we're seeing that come into use in Battlegrounds. She applies, like PWF said, almost every debuff in the game off her SP3. And as I've been telling you for a few months now, going unstoppable, unblockable, and indestructible passively at the same time on demand, that's really good. That's a really, really good thing. And I'm going to kind of group here with Spot in that I think they're unique. And I think with the Cosmic class, right, I told you Gallant and Teddy were going to be so good because I could read their abilities and be like, here's the problems they are handling. Titania and Spot don't seem to handle problems that are currently being thrown at us. It's more that their kit is so well made, so well constructed, and there's enough utility in there, and the flow seems to be great. I think they're going to end up here. They both have the dice for the same reason. I don't want you pulling them, ranking them up, saying like, Vega says they're going to be amazing, and then 2 months from now, I'm like, oh, guys, I'm not as sure. But I do think this is where they belong. I really do. Steel 22, and I think it's Bitter Steel. I apologize if I'm wrong, but I know it's Steel 22. Has been showing us a lot. You should check out his channel. He's got a spot. My boy Strand has a spot. They've been showing us a lot of videos on them in Battlegrounds and various places. I highly recommend checking both of them out. Moving into the super premium tier, the only one we're going to talk about today is Jessica Jones. I know this. I know she is a real pain to fight. Talked to Yusuf a little bit about her. He has one at a very high rank. And again, Na and the rest of the Illuminati, we all are kind of like, I think this is where she's going to be. The good news is so very few people have her. That I don't think we need to be too worried about it right now. but I think this is where she is. If you have her, let me know where you think she should be. I'm very, very interested to know that. All right, let's go ahead and move on to tech. In the tech, one of the big changes that we now just have 2 in the tier above all. I do really believe that though. I think there's a nice size tier jump down. Ghost and Nimrod, I understand. In fact, that was one of the most heated things in the top 10 tech class video, and I was really surprised by it. I understand why people like both. I do think Ghost can be more dominant in a larger variety of fights, let's say, but Nimrod's not just for mutants. I've been trying to tell everyone that since literally day one. He's phenomenal. He's great. He's not just for mutants. Moving into the top shelf, the first one I do want to talk about is Warlock. Warlock feels to me similar. They're not the same champion, but what's happened to them as far as my tier list, it's similar to Void. It's not that they're not good anymore, or it's not that they're too slow or anything like that. They're great. It's that the class around them has gotten so much stronger, and the utility or the damage sources or what have you that they do, or their style, has gotten swallowed up a little bit, or people are encroaching on their turf, let's call it. As a result, they're just not as valuable as they once were. They're still good, and they're in the top shelf. That's a phenomenal placement. If you pull them, you should be very, very happy and rank them up. You're going to do great with things with them. But that heal block, the dual immunities, that sort of thing, the power drain, it's just not as only findable in Warlock as it once was. Infamous Iron Man. Talk about someone that's really suffering from the hype. The hype on him was so big. It was a Doom Iron Man combination. Even I said, I'm like, I think I'm done with calves, unless like a Doom Iron Man combination came out. I didn't even know that existed, and then there it was. I think with him, I'm just gonna say it. I'm comfortable with if I'm wrong. I kind of want to be wrong because I do like the champion. He's great at fighting Bishop, but I think they put too much of his budget into fighting Bishop. Bishop's a pain. He's not the only champion in the quest or on the lane or in a battlegrounds deck. And I wish there was a little bit more, I wish Infamous Iron Man was like an 8 out of 10 in more places. I feel like he's more like a 6 out of 10 in a lot of places, but boy, is he a 20 out of 10 against fighting Bishop. I think that could be easily fixed by future mutants coming into the game. As I just talked about, looking at the classes, it would make sense to me for some very strong mutants to come out. And all they're going to have to do is get a lot of prowess, right? I think it's 2 in one thing or something like that. And so he would move right up, or some nodes or things like that. He's very well made. The flow on him is fantastic. There's a nice loop with the SP3. I really like mine, and I'm glad I have one. Just because he's a Doom and an Iron Man, 2 of the most famous, loved characters in the comics and, of course, MCU. So much hype came with him, and I think we just had unfair expectations when some of us are disappointed by a champion who's in the top shelf. As I think that went through, I almost have to laugh at myself. Moving on to the super premium, we have Iron Man Infinity War, whose buff will be going live, maybe by the time you see this video. I think this is about where he's going to end up. He's a really tough one to project and analyze because of that synergy he has with Stark Spider-Man, or Stealth Spider-Man. There's so many Spider-Man. You know which one I'm talking about. I want to see how he does. I'm actually very curious about ranking mine up for Battlegrounds once he is buffed. He has a lot of utility, and we've seen him be used very, very well in long-form content. I'm very excited about it. He can be a pain to fight. There's a lot of answers for him. A lot of answers to him came out, but I'm excited about that buff. Moving into the premium, I think some of you are going to be like, what is Psycho Man doing there? Well, someone's recently joined my Discord server. I've gotten to know them via Twitter. Really, really kind person. And his name is Pastor Coco. I'm going to go ahead and link his channel in the description of this. And if you have Psycho Man, or if you just enjoy Psycho Man, I highly recommend you check it out. He's recently done a bit of a guide. He's a big fan of Psycho Man. I don't think he would say that Psycho Man's the best champion in the game, but as I've been talking about, you can do a lot with these champions that aren't in the highest tier. And he does. He uses them, and he has a lot of fun. If you enjoy Psycho Man, I highly recommend you check that out. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the skill class. I know this is going to be a little controversial, but it's what I truly believe, and that's what I want to get out there. Kingpin's the best skill champion in the game. I used to think he needed all his synergies, but I don't think so anymore. There's just too many things that the game is currently asking us to do that he just does right out of the box. He's too flexible, which I know sounds weird when you look at the man, the character model, but he just really is. And I don't think he's like dominantly over Fury or even Shang-Chi. They're great champions. But if I had to only pick one, it would be Kingpin. And then if you throw the synergies on top of him, the SP1 with the degen actually reduces defensibility accuracy by 65%. He goes unstoppable relatively easily. He shrugs the debuffs, and they did a nice job of saying, like, I think it's only like a 60% chance to shrug or something like that. But if you get 8 of them, especially if you have a high sig, you don't even need to get 8. You just throw them all off and you go into overpower for a while. He's really phenomenal. I'm not sure they understood, to be honest, how powerful of a champion they built. If they did, I love you for releasing him anyway. Thank you. Moving into the top shelf category, we've got Crossbones. And I've got the microphone there with Crossbones, Falcons, Black Panther, Mole Man for a different reason. We'll talk about Mole Man first, actually, and I'll group the other 3 together because they're intended to be grouped together. Mole Man has been moved down. A lot of you told me, you're like, look, dude, I understand what you're saying. Even after his fix, his nerf, depending on how you look at it, he's still very good, and he's still maybe the best for what we were using him for to begin with, but he's a lot harder to play, and I can't argue with you. You're actually correct. And I think that part of why he was in the tier above all previously was his ease of play. I really, even though I often just enjoyed using Shang-Chi for those sorts of fights instead, or my Kingpin, I get what you're saying. Mole Man should be there. That's still, again, a phenomenal champion. Crossbones, Falcon, and Black Panther, all there for the same reason. They're all different. Crossbones, I do feel, is stronger, more easily to play against heroes. Falcon rarely gets a fight done in his first lock on. Black Panther doesn't necessarily have, it's a slightly risky style of play, but my friend Na has shown, if you get it down, if you're high skilled enough with him, you can really do it. You add the Hercules synergy, you get the Infuriates. It's really helping his playstyle. The thing they all have in common is the ability to get ability accuracy done to at least 100%, or in Crossbones' case, even more, which is why I have him at the highest. I think he's also the hardest to play. He also doesn't rely on bleeds or something like that for his damage source, so take that for what it is. The game often asks us, or is made easier if we can reduce ability accuracy by a significant amount. And they all can do it, and they can all do it very, very well, depending on how hard you want to play or how difficult you want your champion to be. With Falcon, it's as simple as move back, hold block, you get it done. Crossbones, you got to keep up your Furies. It's pretty involved. Black Panther, the intercepts, these sorts of things, getting Panther's might, have a high sig, get the bleeds up. So I think you understand there, and getting that ability accuracy down as well as they do, getting the damage going, I think it makes a big difference. They're just turning off nodes and defensive abilities. It's extremely powerful. Unless the game just makes a dramatic change, I really don't see any of them falling out of that tier. Maybe someone encroaches on their turf a little bit, but that's where I think they're going to be. Moving into Super Premium, I've recently pulled Mantis myself. I've done a series of videos on her. I've often compared her. The analogy I really like with her is she's like a Ferrari that's being asked to be driven off-road. It's still a Ferrari. It's awesome. But you're kind of asking it to do the wrong thing. I think she's going to be amazing for beating up Winter Soldier. Maybe beating Deadpool 6.1. But as the nodes get trickier, or as, let's say, in Battlegrounds, where you're having to fight a Terrax, a Korg, a Thing, Doctor Doom, these champions have other things about their kits that either mitigate damage or make you have to hit them a certain way or stay out of things. I think she's going to struggle. There's also the skill champions that shrug things, right? I don't think she's going to be very good against Atuma and Korg and Kingpin. They're going to shrug her debuffs, and she needs the debuffs on to get up her mixed emotions. Now, Nick136 put out a very good video on her. He's obviously explored her a little bit more and played her very well, and I learned some things from that. But I think what you're going to find is she's like the perfect super premium champion. There's going to be cases where she is dominant. There's just not going to be a lot of them, and they're not going to be cases where you really want them. She's probably going to help you a lot doing some questing and things like that. It's just there's going to be other more reliable, maybe better overall champions. I hope I'm wrong, because I pulled her and I took her to rank 4, 6200, but that's kind of where I think she should be. And I am going to add, the dice emoji to her right now. Okay, that's updated and I feel a lot better about it. All right, moving on to Blade. Blade is a bit of a resurgence for me. I have been convinced by Legacy and DLL and others that his danger sense still is very, very powerful. The bleeds are excellent, and the heal off of the signature ability is fantastic. So there he is. You can use him to clear a lot of content. That's exactly where he should be. Now we're making our first prediction. Okay, unfortunately, I can't fully talk about Zemo as far as like what exactly is in his kit, because I don't think that when this video goes live, the deep dives may not be out yet. And I know the patch notes or the ability notes are not out. I'll just say this is about where I think he's going to be. I have a sense that he might be a little bit slow, and I know that can turn off a lot of people. I tend to prefer champions who do damage fast, but I do think he's going to be tremendously fun to play. And I don't want to give away anything about his kit. Obviously, I am aware of his abilities. This is about where I think he's going to be. I think people are going to enjoy him. And I think his upper limit is maybe high super premium or low top shelf. I'm excited to play him, though, and get to know him a little bit better. All right, that is it for the skill class. Let's go ahead and move on to Cosmic, where, of course, we have the broken Hercules. And I really wanted to put Hulkling above him, but Hercules is just so broken in so many places. And I think Hulkling, he's not broken. He's just an amazing 9 out of 10 in so many places that this game asks you to be that. In a way, I want to analogize it to what I said about Infamous Iron Man, who I think is like a 20 out of 10 against Bishop. Hulkling's like a 15 out of 10 against Penny Parker, but he's a 9 or an 8 or a 10 in so many other places in this game. And his kit fits together so well. I've been saying it since like day 1 of CCP testing, getting the word out. I even did a save for Hulkling video. And then we move into Gallon. I think Gallon's phenomenal. I think some people are pushing him a little far, or thinking that he can do all these things with like, that he can do with armor up in other cases. And he really can't. He's still great. I have him in the tier above all. So I'm not trying to tell you he's a bad champion. I just do think Hulkling is better. Moving on to our next champion as we move through these tiers is we get to Gore. Gore, oh, he deserves the buff. I'll update that and put the buff emoji in their form. I don't know Gore as well. I'm really going off of people who do love Gore and how excited they are for the buff. It sounds like the signature ability has been placed, or like the highest part of the signature ability has now been placed as a kit. That's almost always a good thing. Kind of lets you know, at least I think, that they were worried about him being too powerful. And for that sort of power level, they wanted you to have to fully invest in the SIG. The fact that it's now just in his base kit, or it's attainable at level 20 or something like that, I think is a really good sign for his future in this game. He is unique in the way kind of that Null is unique in the class. They don't really do exactly what we think of when we think of our Cosmic champions with all these buffs and armor breaks and things like that. So I could see him moving up higher. But right now, especially with my limited knowledge on him, I want to test him. We'll stream test him live when that buff goes live soon thereafter. And I think that's about where he would be. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you're still watching. I really do appreciate it. And let me know how you enjoyed this. It's not a new format, but a reevaluation after everything we learned in 2022. And then the process of going through all of that with my Discord server and the comments from you, breaking them down class by class and really analyzing who's the best was very helpful. And I think it's going to make the monthly tier list better and better. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.
I hope you either learned something, were entertained, or even better, a little bit of both. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.